Hi guys, what's up? So, this is my first video on YouTube, and the main objective I have with it is to introduce my political views to the audience. I am economically left-wing and socially right-wing. It is the one quadrant in which you don't really see many people explicitly identifying themselves, because it's much more common to be right on economy and left socially, or just left for both things or right in both. But it's always been there in society. A fair warning, I tend to veer into very strong and by no means moderate opinions and draw from a variety of sources all over the left-right spectrum. So if you're not comfortable with radicalism, this channel might not be right for you. Alrighty, so firstly, a word about me. I'm an American living in South America. I lived in Brazil for about a year, a little over, and now I live in Paraguay. I've always wanted to leave the United States to see the world, and I accomplished that dream. I speak English, Spanish, and Portuguese, and I'm almost certain to make videos in Spanish and Portuguese as I expand. By the way, I did initially begin recording this with a Red Dragon Blazar GM300 USB mic, but the quality was simply too poor, so I superseded it with a Shure MV7 and a Steinberg UR22 Mark II USB audio interface. And with that, let's get started. Outline. For the purposes of this video, because it is purely introductory, my outline for how I'm gonna structure this presentation is to explain the history of this orientation in modern society first, then present my intellectual influences, and proceed by very generally summarizing my core beliefs on a high level. And last but not least, some closing words on the trajectory of my channel, specifically my plan for future videos. History. It is more common than you realize to be economically situated on the left wing and socially on the other side. If you observe the development of political ideology over, say, the last 100 years, there have always been parties and leaders embodying this movement. They never explicitly declared it, but they underscored a pattern. One could observe the trend in several early American leaders, such as Theodore Roosevelt, Dwight Eisenhower, and Lyndon B. Johnson, more specifically so in TR's Square Deal, fiscal liberalism, coupled alongside expansion of the Navy. Eisenhower took an assertively pro-containment stance on the Korean War, yet happily raised taxes to the 90% rate. LBJ led Great Society reforms while proudly endorsing the Vietnam War. Let's also not forget the Nelson Rockefeller-style liberal Republicans during the Cold War, who were accepting of social programs. Quite a number of European governments follow this trend as well, of high government spending alongside moral conservatism, as observed in the indicated portion of the following Galtan ideologram. Notable examples are the KKE in Greece, the KCSM in the Czech Republic, the PSD in Romania, and the Blue Labour faction within the Labour Party in the United Kingdom. Interestingly enough, I even found a little-known third party in the United States, the American Solidarity Party, which curiously explicitly adheres to fiscal liberalism and social or Christian moral conservatism. Another correlated movement is civic nationalism, which is sort of like social democracy in a way, but they tend to hold anti-immigrant and pro-war sentiment. You can skim their Wikipedia page. It's basically a form of national populism on the left. Last but not least, you can find tons of blogs and forums written by guys who hold these views, say on Medium or Reddit, for example. The problem is, though, despite this underlying trend, outside of weirdly just Central and Eastern Europe, it's not very common for parties in the Anglo sphere of North America and Western Europe to have political representation this way. A 2019 study of Western European nations shows that due to the absence of even minor third parties in their favor, citizens on the economic left and social right often don't vote, and they feel alienated from the ballot box. Consider, for example, the following visual. Observe the relative absence of blue dots in the upper left-hand sector in countries such as Portugal, Sweden, Spain, Italy, the Netherlands, France, Austria, and on and on. You get the picture. In the United States, a separate thing seems to be happening. A video by the Jacobin from 2022 argued that Americans with the economic left and socially moderate to conservative profile end up just splitting their vote between left and right candidates due to their unique position, which allows them to vote on either side. So, as I alluded to before, it's always been there to think this way. It's always been around, just not as loud. Influences. The focus of this channel will ultimately be my political thought and my stance on various topics, socio-political in nature. Right then, with a spectral syncretic world view, who influences my thought is the question. And I have tons of influences. I tend to co-opt a variety of thinkers on both sides of the fence to bolster my arguments. In terms of political economy, I really like Karl Marx, of course. I really like David Harvey, Karl Polanyi. I like Lenin and Tito. I'm probably going to have to devote a couple independent videos for Lenin and Tito. Gandhi, Shea, Mark Blythe, Yanis Varoufakis, Joseph Stiglitz, and I also subscribe to top YouTubers like Vaush and Bad Empanada and Hassan Piker. For social issues, I am heavily influenced by Jordan Peterson, Friedrich Nietzsche, pretty much most anti-feminist bloggers online, Fyodor Dostoevsky, and Alexander Solzhenitsyn. I'm sorry if I'm just sort of skipping over all of these names. Some of them might be new, some of them might ring a bell or sound an alarm. It's very rare to like both JP and Marx, I acknowledge. So those are my influences. Summary of views. I thought it might be pertinent to include a preview of my beliefs to the viewers so that they can get a bird's eye view of what I stand for. In terms of political economy, I tend to endorse the following ideas. A strong progressive tax on the wealthy to penalize unearned privilege. A strong regulatory oversight over the financial sector. Universal health care, free education, and a robust set of social benefits. And lastly, market socialist policies with openness to co-ops and unions and room for communism or anarchism locally. So that's the economic side. And in terms of social issues, I tend to endorse the following ideas, being anti-feminist, as well as intolerance towards the intolerance of strong, belligerent, hot-headed women. And finally, a war hawk who is pro-war and espouses assertively pro-interventionist foreign policy, with some occasional exceptions from the geopolitical perspective of Western nations in particular. And of course, I have views on practically every major world issue. This is just a generalization. A word about my channel. The focus of this channel will ultimately be explicating these aforementioned stances, as well as addressing current affairs. I did initially record a very long video with every single point of view I have contained within it, but I found it simply too overwhelming for someone new to the channel, so instead I'm planning on piecemealing it into a series of lectures regarding these beliefs. In respect to current affairs, I would like to begin some lectures on Brazil, and specifically its situation. As someone who spent a year there living amongst the people and admiring their culture, I demand more than what has been said about it in the current Western media, and even in leftist circles, outside of the basic Bolsonaro is bad and Lula is good lingo. That's a good enough plan for the time being, and I'll flesh out my direction more concretely as I move along. Conclusion. So, as we wrap this up, I think I've done a good high-level job at fleshing out what I stand for and what my beliefs at their root truly are. I'm a leftist on tax and a rightist on feminism and war. I'll certainly flesh out my ideas more thoroughly in my upcoming videos. Please remember to like, comment, share this video, and of course, subscribe. Thank you. Until next time.